The great chamber of the Galactic Council was a masterpiece of serene power. Light from 3 suns filtered through crystalline domes, casting shifting patterns on the polished floors where delegates from 100 species glided. The air hummed with a low, pleasant frequency designed to promote calm. At the central dais, Counselor Quan, a tall being with smooth, gray skin and large, dark eyes, watched the proceedings with deep satisfaction. On the main viewer, the image of the Zenther homeworld showed orderly columns of smoke rising from designated industrial zones, now under Council control. Another conflict resolved, another potential disruption to the galactic peace neatly contained. The Zenther have accepted the terms, Quan announced. His voice amplified to fill the space without being loud. Their faster-than-light research will cease, and their energy output levels will be rolled back to permitted standards. The peace is preserved. A wave of agreeable thoughts and soft chitters echoed through the chamber. This was the way. For 5,000 standard cycles, the core laws had maintained stability. No species was allowed to develop technologies deemed too disruptive, too dangerous. War, as the ancient, brutal kind, was extinct. Disputes were settled by council arbitration, and if necessary, by the swift, precise application of their guardian fleets. The weaponry was clean energy-based, designed to disable shields and electronics, not to rend and tear. It was a civilized galaxy dot near the back of the chamber. Nira observed, her hands resting lightly on her data terminal. As a junior liaison, her role was to process communications, not to offer opinions. She was humanoid, like Quan, but with warmer, amber-toned skin and dark hair tied back neatly. She watched the satisfied faces of the senior counselors. The Zenther had only wanted to power their cities more efficiently, to reach the stars as all species once had. Their punishment felt disproportionate. A small knot of unease tightened in her stomach, but she kept her expression neutral. Questioning the Council's wisdom was not a career path. It was an exit strategy. The celebratory atmosphere was shattered by a sharp, discordant chime from the Deep Space Monitoring Network. A junior technician, a nervous Talaxian, fluttered to the dais. Counselor, a report from Rim Sector Theta. An unidentified vessel has breached the galactic perimeter. Quan sighed, a whisper of air through his nasal slits. Another lost colony ship? Or perhaps a comet? Guide it towards a quarantine beacon for scanning. Sir, it is not responding to beacons. It is moving. Very fast, and on a direct heading for the core systems. A ripple of annoyance, not concern, went through the Council. Intruders were rare, and always harmless. Visual, Quan ordered. The main viewer switched from the pacified Zenther world to a grainy, long-range sensor image. The object was a dark speck against the starfield. As the AI enhanced the image, the chamber grew quiet. The ship was massive, larger than a Council dreadnought. Its shape was wrong all hard angles, flat planes, and stark geometric protrusions. It lacked the graceful curves and organic lines common to galactic engineering. It looked like a mountain had been carved into a weapon and set adrift in the void. No energy signature bloomed from its rear. It moved on a silent, terrifyingly efficient drive that bent space without the familiar Takin flares. Origin? Quan demanded, his calm cracking slightly. None in the archives, Counselor. Its composition is dense, primarily metallic alloys. Radiation shielding is off the scale. It reads like a flying fortress from the pre-unification eras. Laughter, nervous and dismissive, came from a Vel delegate, a muscular being with bristled skin. A relic. They are using reaction mass propulsion? How quaint. They probably think they are the first to discover the stars. Send a patrol to educate them. The core laws apply to all. Quan nodded, regaining his composure. Dispatch the nearest patrol. Hail them on all frequencies. Standard first contact and compliance protocols. Remind them of the penalties for unauthorized entry. The order went out. A patrol of 2 sleek council enforcers, vessels shaped like silver needles, altered course and sped towards the intruder. On the bridge of the massive, alien ship, the atmosphere was one of focused calm. The lighting was subdued, functional. Screens displayed streams of data in clean, blocky script. The air smelled faintly of ozone, recycled water, and Coffee Captain Jin sat in the central command chair, his eyes fixed on the main tactical hologram. He was a man in his late 40s, his black hair streaked with silver, his face lined not with age, but with the strain of long command. He wore a simple, dark blue duty uniform without adornment. To his right, First Officer Yoonji monitored the sensor feeds. Her expression was sharp, analytical, her fingers dancing across a touch surface, categorizing everything she saw. "The 2 small craft are accelerating to intercept, Captain," she reported. Her voice was even. "They are broadcasting on multiple radio wave and hyperwave bands. The translation matrix is parsing. It appears to be a warning to halt and identify ourselves." Jin leaned forward slightly. "Any weapons lock?" "Passive scanning only. No active targeting. Their energy profiles are curious, very focused. Low yield for their size." On the screen, the 2 approaching ships looked like pieces of intricate jewelry. Jin's mouth was a thin line. "They're treating us like a stray animal. Open a channel. Use their frequency." A moment later, Yoonji nodded. "Open." "Unidentified vessels," Jin said, his voice flat and clear. "This is the Terran Voyager ship Jiangwall. We are on a course for the source of your galaxy-wide broadcasts. We mean no hostility. Please acknowledge." There was a burst of untranslated noise, and a haughty voice replied, the translator rendering it in cold, formal tones. "Unregistered vessel Jiangwall. Asterisk, you have violated Council-protected space. Your technology profile is non-compliant with core laws. You will kill your drive immediately and prepare for boarding and inspection. Your vessel will be impounded. Comply or be neutralized." Asterisk. Jin glanced at Yoonji. She gave a slight, almost imperceptible shake of her head. The scan of the neutralization protocols suggested energy weapons designed to overload systems, not cause physical destruction. They were meant to disable, not destroy. "Neutralize," Jin repeated softly. He looked at his tactical officer, a stout man named Day, who waited with his hands poised over his console. "They're going to try to turn our lights off, Day." Day snorted. "Their power output wouldn't scratch our meteor shield paint, sir." "We'll give them one more chance," Jin said. He reopened the channel. "Council vessels, we decline your request for boarding. We will continue on our course. Do not interfere." The response was immediate. The 2 silver ships shimmered as their shields activated, a beautiful, prismatic bubble around each. Their probes glowed with a building crimson light. "Final warning. You are now deemed a hostile entity." "Shields up," Jin said, not raising his voice. "Minimum deflection field. Let's see what they've got." The Jiangwall did not shimmer. Instead, a low thrum resonated through the deck plates as the gravitic deflectors, normally used to shunt aside asteroid debris, powered on. To the Council ships, it registered as a minor spatial distortion. Twin lances of crimson energy lanced out from the Council patrol, striking the Jiangwall amidships. On the Council vessels, the crews watched, expecting the massive ship's systems to short-circuit, its lights to go dark. On the Jiangwall's bridge, a minor alert chimed. "Direct hit," Yoonji said. "Energy absorbed by the outer hull dispersion layer. No penetration. No system disruption. Thermal increase negligible." She sounded almost bored, The view from the Council patrol showed the red beams splashing harmlessly against the dark. Angular hull, scattering into space like ineffective fireworks. For a moment, there was only stunned silence on their channel. Then panic. What is that? Their shields didn't even flare. What kind of armor is that? All power to engines. Evasive. The two silver ships spun gracefully, preparing to retreat and report this impossibility. Jin watched them turn. He had given them their chance. Tactical. And warning shot. Use the point defense network. Target their primary engine nozzles. Disable, do not destroy. Day's fingers tapped a sequence. Aye, sir. Firing. From a dozen small turreted mounts on the Jiangwall S hull, streams of solid projectiles erupted. They were not lasers or plasma. They were simple, ultra-dense slugs, accelerated by magnetic rails to a fraction of light speed. They crossed the distance in an instant. The beautiful prismatic shields of the Council ships did nothing. The shields were designed to diffuse energy, not stop physical mass traveling at such velocity. The slugs passed through like stones through smoke. Precision strikes shattered the delicate engine housings on both vessels, sending plumes of inert coolant gas into the vacuum. Their elegant drives sputtered and died. They were left adrift, powerless, their crews in terrified disbelief. On the Jiangwall, the bridge was quiet. The only sound was the hum of the ship's systems. "They are neutralized, Captain," Day reported. Jin nodded slowly, his eyes on the drifting, glittering ships on the hologram. They looked so fragile. Any life signs? All intact. Just shocked. Good. Record the entire encounter. All of it? Their hails, their threats, their attack, our response. He took a slow breath. Now, proceed to the coordinates of their central broadcast hub. Maintain course and speed. Let's see if they're ready to talk when we arrive, or if they want to send more lights to tea. The news of the patrol's defeat sent a tremor through the Galactic Council, but it was a tremor of anger, not of fear. The two crippled ships had been recovered, their crews babbling about solid projectiles and impervious armor. In the serene chamber, the mood had shifted from calm to cold irritation. Councillor Quan stood before the assembled delegates, his gray skin flushed with a darker hue. "This is not a crisis," he stated, his voice firm. "It is an embarrassment. A single primitive vessel has disabled two of our enforcers using kinetic weapons. They throw rocks. This is a technology we banned for its brutality and inefficiency 10,000 cycles ago. It is a sign of their backwardness, not their strength." The Vel delegate, Commander Rin, rose. His bristled hide twitched with aggression. Backward or not, they have insulted the Council. My people have the nearest battle group, the Swift Retribution, and 4 cruisers. Let us erase this flying fossil. A proper demonstration of energy cannons will reduce it to molten slag. There were murmurs of agreement. The logic was clear. The first patrol had been weak, its attack a simple compliance measure. The Vel were warriors, their ships designed for conquest in the ancient times, now repurposed as the Council's sharpest blade. Their weapons were powerful, their crews disciplined. This would be a swift lesson. Liaison Myra watched from her station, the knot in her stomach now a hard ball of ice. She had reviewed the sensor logs from the patrol. The projectiles had moved at speeds the computers could barely track. The alien ship's hull had absorbed the full force of the energy beams without a scratch. She tried to speak, to suggest caution, but her terminal was locked to receive-only mode for junior staff. She was meant to listen, not to be heard. Quan nodded to the Vel commander. Authorized. Intercept and destroy. Broadcast the engagement live to the Council. Let the galaxy see the cost of defiance. As the order was transmitted, Myra slipped away from her terminal. In the quiet archive beneath the chamber, she accessed the deeper historical records, the ones not meant for general review. She searched for anything related to solid projectile weaponry, to armor that resisted energy. The files were sparse, mostly ancient tactical analyses from the Unification Wars. But one reference kept appearing, tagged and suppressed. *** Project. Deterrent. Subject, Sol 3. Species, human. Status, quarantine. ***. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Sol to 3. Terra. Earth. The names were myths, whispered sometimes as a cautionary tale about violent, unstable pre-FT Ul cultures. The file was sealed under counselor-level security. All she could see was the label and a single, faded image from a probe taken centuries ago. A blue and white planet, swirling with clouds. And a note, * technological progression unpredictable. Potential for rapid asymmetrical development. Recommend silent observation and containment via deep space signal jamming. Risk of galactic destabilization. High. * containment. Jamming. They hadn't just ignored Earth. They had tried to silence it. And now, something from that silenced world was here, and it was not speaking. It was shouting. ***** on the bridge of the Jiang Wall. The mood was one of detached readiness. The ship moved through the void like a ghost. Captain Jin studied the new contacts on the tactical hologram. 5 vessels, larger than the first, were moving into an intercept pattern. Their energy signatures were intense, focused. They were warships, no doubt about it. Designate them Vel Battle Group, Yunji said, her eyes on her screens. Heavy energy readings from the lead ship. They are forming a net, trying to guide us into a crossfire. They are hailing us. Put it on speaker. Jin said that the voice that filled the bridge was harsh, guttural, dripping with contempt. Primitive vessel Jiangwall. * I am Commander Rin of the Vel Imperium. You have assaulted Council vessels. Your existence is an offense. Power down your drives and surrender your command crew for judgment. If you do not, you will be annihilated. You have 1 standard minute to comply. * Jin leaned back in his chair. Tell me about their weapons, Day. Tactical Officer Day didn't look up from his console. Based on the energy buildup, it's a focused plasma cannon system. High heat, intended to melt through shields and hull. It would be effective against most of the ships we've seen on our long-range scans. Their shields are multi-phase, designed to dissipate energy attacks. And against us? Day finally glanced up, a faint smirk on his face. Our primary hull is 3 meters of layered titanium alloy, diamond weave composite, and self-sealing ceramic. It's designed to withstand micrometeoroid impacts at 0.99 light. Their plasma will make a nice light show. Might even clean some space dust off the port side. Jin allowed himself a small, tired smile. They had spent centuries building ships to survive the fury of a hostile cosmos, to sail through asteroid belts and radiation storms. This was just another storm. Open a channel. The link hissed open. Commander Rin, Jin said, his voice calm. This is Captain Jin of the Terran Voyager ship Jiang Wall. We are not here to fight. We are here to talk. We will not surrender. Stand down and let us pass. This is your only warning. The reply was a bark of laughter. * talk? You have nothing to say that we wish to hear. Your minute is up. Vel Fleet, open fire. * on the main viewer, the 5 Vel ships blossomed with light. From the lead ship, the Swift Retribution, a torrent of incandescent green plasma, as thick as a tree trunk, erupted. The other cruisers fired smaller, faster bolts. The space between the fleets became a hellstorm of sizzling energy, all converging on the Jiang Wall. The bridge lights dimmed automatically as the first strikes hit. The ship shuddered, a deep, groaning vibration that ran through the deck. Alerts chimed. Direct hits across forward sections, Yunji reported, her voice steady. Thermal dispersion systems are active. Outer hull temperature is rising, but within tolerances. No breach. Shields are holding at 98%. On the viewer, the Jiang wall was engulfed in a blinding aurora of dispersing plasma. It looked like a world on fire. In the council chamber, watching the live feed, there were nods of satisfaction. Commander Rin smirked. No ship could withstand that dot, but as the plasma cooled and dissipated into space, the view cleared. The dark, angular ship emerged, steaming slightly, its hull glowing a dull red in patches. But it was intact. It was still moving forward, its course unchanged. It looked like a demon forged in a star. Silence, absolute and profound, fell over the council chamber. Quan's mouth hung open. Rin's smug expression froze, then cracked into confusion. On the Jiong wall, Jin brushed an imaginary piece of lint from his sleeve. "They're committed now," he said quietly. "They've thrown their best at us. Now they're scared. And scared people make mistakes." He turned to Day. "We need to end this. One shot. Make it count. Target the lead ship's main power core. Use the primary mass driver. A single round. I, Captain." Charging primary mass driver. The hum in the ship changed, deepening into a subsonic growl that they felt in their bones. At the very bow of the Jiongwol, massive magnetic coils, normally used for clearing orbital debris or mining asteroids. "Powered up. Solution locked," Day said. "Fire." There was no bright beam, no burst of light. There was only a deep thump that resonated through the hull, like the strike of a colossal hammer. From the ship's bow, a tungsten projectile, the size of a ground car, was ejected. It did not glow. It was a dark, polished slug of metal dot, crossed the distance in a blink. It struck the shimmering, multi-layered energy shield of the swift retribution. The shield flashed once, a beautiful prismatic burst of light, as it tried to disperse the impossible kinetic energy. It failed. The projectile did not slow. It passed through the shield, through the ornate, sculpted hull of the Vel flagship, and through its central power core. For a second, nothing happened. Then, the swift retribution came apart. It didn't explode with fire. It disintegrated from the inside, its structure shattered by the shockwave. One moment it was a proud warship. The next it was an expanding cloud of glittering fragments. The silence on the Vel command channel was total. The 4 remaining cruisers hung in space, their weapons dark. The live feed to the council chamber showed the expanding debris field, and then the unmoving, unscathed Jiang wall beyond it. Jin's voice broke the silence, transmitted on the same open frequency. "The discussion is over. We are proceeding to your council. Any further interference will be met with decisive force. Do not test us again." The Jiang wall began to move forward once more, its engines flaring with a simple blue chemical burn, pushing it towards the heart of the galaxy. The 4 Vel cruisers did not move to follow. They simply drifted, paralyzed not by weaponry, but by a concept they had forgotten. Sheer, overwhelming force dot in the council chamber, the live feed cut to static. The serene light seemed harsh now. Counselor Quan slowly sank into his chair, all authority drained from him. He looked at his hands, then at the stunned faces around him. Myra, watching from the edge of the room, closed her eyes. The myth was real, and its first words had not been a plea or a request. They had been a statement of fact, written in the wreckage of the galaxy's strongest warriors. The fear she felt was not for herself, but for a civilization that had just discovered was not at the top of the food chain. The galaxy was no longer a tidy garden. A wolf had just walked in. The silence in the Galactic Council chamber was a physical thing, heavy and cold. The static from the terminated live feed seemed to echo. Counselor Quan stared at the blank main viewer, his mind unable to process the images it had just shown. The Vel flagship, a symbol of their refined martial power, had not been defeated. It had been erased. Not through superior energy output or clever hacking, but through a brutal application of primitive force. A rock. They had thrown a very fast, very large rock. Around him, the delegates were frozen. The elegant Talaxians had their wings clamped tight to their bodies. The aquatic nereids swirled nervously in their liquid-filled tanks. The atmosphere of smug certainty had vaporized, replaced by a creeping, unfamiliar dread. Quan's instincts, honed over centuries of political maneuvering, kicked in. Fear was a tool, but only if you directed it. He could not let it consume the council. He stood, willing authority back into his voice. This object is clearly a relic of a more violent age, he began, the words sounding hollow even to him. It possesses a singular, surprising defense. But it is one ship. We have thousands. We must analyze its weakness, not panic at its strength. Commander Rin's image flickered onto a side screen, his face a mask of fury and humiliation. Weakness? It has no weakness. Our sensors recorded everything. Their hull composition is insane. Their shields are gravitic. They bend space around the ship. You cannot burn through that. And that cannon, he spat the word. Our shields are designed for energy diffusion. They do nothing against kinetic impact at relativistic speeds. It is a cheat, a violation of the laws of war. There are no laws against what works, a quiet voice said. All eyes turned. Liaison Mira stood at her now active terminal, her face pale but determined. She had overridden the receive-only lock. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her hands from shaking. How dare you? Quan hissed. I dare because we are blind, Mira said, her voice gaining strength. She transferred the data from the archives to the main viewer. The ancient, grainy image of the blue planet Earth filled the screen. Next to it, she placed the tactical scan of the Jianwall S-hole composition and the energy absorption graphs from the Vel attack. The correlation was not perfect, but the implication was staggering. This is not a random relic. It is from there. Sol 3. The quarantined world. A wave of disbelief and muttered curses swept the chamber. The quarantine was an old, almost forgotten security protocol. A footnote. The file states, unpredictable. Asymmetrical development, Mira continued, highlighting the text. We placed a silence around their star. We expected them to die out, fighting over their own mud. What if they didn't? What if the silence didn't make them quiet? What if it made them listen? And then, what if it made them prepare? Quan waved a dismissive hand. For what? A threat they could not see? For everything. Myra's voice rose, echoing in the quiet room. Look at the ship. It is not sleek. It is not elegant. It is bulky, overbuilt, armored like a fortress. Its primary weapon is a mining tool. Its point defense guns are for shooting asteroids. Its shields are for navigating debris clouds. This is not a warship. She paused, letting the words sink in. This is a ship built to survive anything the universe can throw at it. It is a Voyager. And we just tried to kill it for entering our neighborhood. The logic was terrifying in its simplicity. The galaxy had spent millennia refining specific technologies for specific civilized purposes. This human ship represented a different philosophy. Raw, brutal redundancy. Why develop a delicate plasma cannon when a simple, unstoppable mass of metal, moving fast enough, solved every problem from mining to combat? On the bridge of the Jianwall, the crew monitored the galactic communications networks. The channels. were flooded with panic, speculation, and fragmented reports. Yunji worked to filter the noise. "They are calling us a doom ship," she reported to Jin. "They are debating whether to throw their entire fleet at us or to flee the core systems. The political structure is fracturing." Jin nodded slowly. He looked tired. "They only understand two languages, compliance and destruction. We have shown them we are not compliant. We must now show them we are not destroyers. But they have to be willing to see it." He studied the star chart. "How? Long to their central hub?" "At current speed, 6 hours," they said. "Maintain course. Keep all defensive systems at standby. No active targeting unless fired upon." Jin turned to Yunji. "Prepare a new broadcast. Wideband, simple visual and audio. No complex data, just me." Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. In the council chamber, the debate raged. Some factions demanded immediate, total war. Others advocated for retreat and containment. Quan, trying to regain control, argued for a massive energy weapon barrage from a combined fleet at extreme range. "We can overwhelm its heat dispersion." "Capacity. We must not let it reach the council seat." Mira listened, despair growing. They were still thinking in terms of a fight they could win. They had not yet understood that the fight itself was the problem. Suddenly, every screen in the chamber, from the main viewer to personal data slates, flickered and changed. The harsh, clean lines of a human bridge appeared. In the center sat Captain Jin. He looked directly into the feed. He was not wearing a helmet or grand uniform. He looked like a man at the end of a very long shift. "People of the Galactic Council," he began, his translated voice calm and low. "My name is Jin. I command the Terran Voyager ship Jiangwal. We have come a long way. For many generations, we listened to the silence of the stars. We wondered if we were alone. We prepared for what we might find, hoping for friends, ready for enemies." He paused, and the image split. On one side was his face. On the other, clean, clear playback of the two council patrol ships firing their crimson beams at the Jiangwal. Then, the Jiangwal S-point defense guns firing precise shots to disable them. The footage was undeniable. "You fired first. We disabled your ships, but we took care not to kill." The image changed to show the Vel fleet's devastating plasma barrage engulfing his ship. The chamber watched, transfixed, as the Jiangwal weathered the storm. "You fired your most powerful weapons. We absorbed them." Finally, the image showed the single brutal shot from the mass driver, the shield flash, and the silent disintegration of the swift retribution. "You left us no choice but to speak more clearly. One of your crews is dead because you commanded them to break themselves against us." Jin leaned forward slightly. "We are not conquerors. We are explorers. The silence you placed around our world did not cage us. It taught us to be strong. We are here now. We will be heard. We are approaching your meeting place. We will arrive. You can choose to meet us with more fire, and we will respond. Or you can choose to meet us with voices." The transmission ended, returning the screens to council controls. The chamber was utterly still. The recording had been masterful. It was not a boast. It was a report. A chronological, irrefutable report that placed the blame squarely on the council's arrogance. It showed restraint, then unimaginable power, and then an offer. Quan was broken. His strategy, his authority, his entire worldview was in ashes. He had seen the care in the first retaliation and the terrible necessity of the second. This was not a mindless beast. It was a reasoned, disciplined entity of immense power. Mira saw her chance. She stepped forward. "Counselor, the offer is there. They will come. If we greet them with a fleet, they will interpret it as an attack. They will do what they must to survive. They have proven what that means." She took a deep breath. Let me go. Let a single shuttle, unarmed, with a single emissary, meet them before they reach us. Not to surrender, to listen, to finally end the silence we started. All eyes turned to Quan. The old counselor looked from mirrors determined. Face to the blank screen where the human captain's image had been. He saw no alternative but annihilation, either of their fleet or their pride. In a voice barely a whisper, heavy with defeat, he said, "Make the preparations." The Jiangwol hung in the void at the edge of the Council's home star system. It did not advance. It did not broadcast threats. It simply stopped, a silent, dark mountain against the brilliant backdrop of the galactic core. Its inaction was more terrifying than any movement. To the thousands of warships now hastily assembled in defensive formations around the Council planet, it was a riddle they could not solve. They watched, sensors at maxima, waiting for the monster to stir. On the bridge, the humans watched back. The tactical hologram glittered with hostile contacts, a beautiful, deadly constellation of ships forming layered nets of fire. Captain Jin observed them with the calm of a geologist, studying an interesting rock formation. "They've pulled everything," Tactical Officer Day remarked. "Even old museum pieces from the founding eras. They're scared. They're waiting for us to do something," First Officer Yunji said. "Their command channels are a mess. Arguing, fear, fragments of old battle doctrines that don't apply." Jin nodded. "So we'll do something. Just not what they expect. Activate the full defensive spectacle." Yunji tapped a series of commands. Activating Citadel Protocol. The Jiangwol began to change. Across its angular hull, massive hexagonal plates shifted and realigned. From these openings, a shimmering haze erupted, not a bubble, but a distorting lens of gravitic force that made the starlight behind the ship warp and dance. This was its primary meteor shield, a field designed to bend the path of incoming physical objects. Next. From smaller ports, clouds of tiny, drone-like objects spewed forth, forming a whirling, intelligent swarm around the ship. These were repair and construction bots, capable of in-flight maintenance and salvage. To the galactic fleet, they looked like a predatory cloud of shrapnel. Finally, along the ship's spine, vents opened and expelled superheated plasma in controlled, rhythmic pulses. It was waste heat from the power cores, normally dissipated slowly. Now it was vented dramatically, creating a mane of fiery auroras around the vessel, making it look like a dragon waking from sleep. On the bridges of the Council fleet, panic escalated. Sensor officers shouted conflicting reports. Gravitic distortion field at maximum. It's bending our targeting scans. Swarm of unknown projectiles, thousands of them. They are moving in a coordinated pattern. It's venting plasma. Its internal temperature must be beyond anything possible. It's preparing to fire a stellar-level weapon. The Jiangwo had not fired a shot. It had simply turned on its lights. And in doing so, it had become a fortress. Every single weapon in the galaxy was pointed at it, and every single admiral was suddenly, absolutely sure that attacking would be the last thing they ever did. The galaxy was not just afraid. It was paralyzed. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk in the council chamber. The mood was one of grim helplessness. The image of the transformed Jiangwol, now a blazing, distorted fortress surrounded by a deadly swarm, was on every screen. Counselor Quan had stopped giving orders. He simply stared. Mira, wearing a simple, unadorned pressure suit, stood by the airlock of a diplomatic shuttle. It was a small, graceful craft designed for travel between friendly worlds. It had no weapons, only a powerful transmitter. A senior security officer, a hulking Vel named Gore, was assigned as her pilot. His face was set in a permanent scowl. "This is suicide," Gore grumbled, running a final check. They will vaporize us the moment we leave the hangar. They had every chance to vaporize the Vel battle group, and they only destroyed one ship that fired on them, Myra replied, her voice steadier than she felt. They are sending a message. I intend to listen. The shuttle bay doors opened. The small craft drifted out into the silent space, a speck of polished metal against the immense, terrifying backdrop of the human ship and the gathered galactic armada. Every weapon in the fleet tracked its progress, but no one dared fire. Inside the shuttle, the only sound was the hum of the engines. Gore guided them on a slow, direct course. The Jiang wall grew larger, blotting out the stars. From up close, it was even more immense. The shimmering gravitic field made the hull look like it was seen through hot air. The whirling drone swarm parted smoothly before them, creating a temporary corridor. The plasma vents pulsed with a slow, rhythmic power. It felt like flying into the heart of a dormant volcano. A clear, calm voice came over their com. Unidentified shuttle. You are approaching Terran Voyager ship Jiang Wall. Please identify your purpose. Myra swallowed. This is Liaison Mira of the Galactic Council. I am unarmed. I am here alone with one pilot. I request permission to come aboard. I am here to talk. There was a pause. Then the voice returned. Permission granted. Follow the beacon to Hangar Bay 3. A soft, green light pulsed from the side of the monster ship, marking a small opening that Iris shut behind them as they landed. The hangar bay was not what Myra expected. It was not a gleaming, polished dock. It was functional, rugged. The walls were lined with machinery, spare parts, and racks of tools. It smelled of metal, lubricant, and recycled air. In the center of the bay, a small delegation waited. Captain Jin stood with Yunji and Day. They wore the same simple, dark blue duty uniforms. They were not holding weapons. They just waited. Myra stepped out of the shuttle, her legs a little weak. Gore stayed inside, watching nervously through the viewport. She approached the humans. Up close, they looked ordinary, tired even. There was no malice in their eyes, only a watchful curiosity. I am Mira, she said again. I am Captain Jin. This is First Officer Yunji and Tactical Officer Day. He gave a small, polite nod. Welcome aboard the Jiangwall. The simplicity of it was disorienting. Thank you for not destroying my shuttle. You were not a threat, Jin said. It was a statement of fact, not a kindness. Would you like to see the bridge? She nodded, unable to form more words. They led her through clean, utilitarian corridors. The ship felt alive with a deep, steady hum. Crew members passed by, nodding to their captain, glancing at Myra with interest, but no hostility. They looked like engineers, scientists, explorers. The bridge was the same as she had seen in the broadcast. Functional, focused. The main viewer showed the paralyzed galactic fleet, a sea of tiny lights frozen around them. Jin did not sit in his command chair. He stood by a console and gestured to a seat for Myra. Can I offer you some tea? Yunji asked. Myra blinked. Tea? It's a drink from Earth, hot water infused with leaves. It's calming. Yunji was already preparing it from a small dispenser. Myra accepted the simple white mug. The warmth was shocking in its normalcy. She took a sip. It was bitter, earthy, real. She looked from the mug to the view of the fleet outside, and the absurdity of it all almost made her laugh. Or cry. You built all this, she gestured around her with her free hand, because of the silence. Jin leaned against a console. We built this because space is dangerous. Asteroids, radiation, gravitational anomalies, unknown phenomena. We built to survive. The silence. Yes. It told us the universe was either empty or it was hiding things that did not wish us well. We prepared for the latter. We hid you, Myra said softly, the shame clear in her voice. It was a quarantine. We thought your species was too volatile. We thought you would destroy yourselves. Jin exchanged a look with Yunji. You were not entirely wrong. We had many wars. The silence, in a way, saved us. It gave us a common enemy, the unknown. It forced us to unite, to look outward, to build not for fighting each other, but for enduring anything. He looked at the fleet on the screen. This is not what we expected to find. What did you expect? Myra asked. We didn't know. Friends, monsters, ruins. He sighed. Not this. Not a garden so carefully tended that everyone has forgotten what a storm looks like. You tried to prune us, and you made us into a storm. Myra set her tea down. What do you want, Captain? Jin looked at her, his eyes clear and direct. We want the quarantine lifted. We want our place. We will not be governed by laws we had no part in making. We will not be contained. We came to deliver that message. You can accept it, and we can find a new way. Or you can reject it, and we will leave. But if we leave, you will always know we are out here, and you will never, ever be able to silence us again. Mira understood. This was not a negotiation for surrender. It was a declaration of existence. The Jiangwo was not here to rule. It was here to inform. The paralyzed galaxy outside had a choice, to see a monster, or to see a new neighbor who built their fences very, very strong. She looked at the kind, tired face of Yunji, at the steady gaze of Day, and finally at Captain Jin. I need to tell them, she said. I need to make them understand. Jin nodded. Use our transmitter. Tell them what you saw here. Tell them the truth. As Myra prepared to speak to her paralyzed civilization, she realized the fear had already begun to change. It was no longer just the fear of destruction. It was the fear of being wrong. And that, perhaps, was the beginning of wisdom. Myra stood on the bridge of the Jiangwo, the simple white mug of tea cooling in her hands. Before her, on the main viewer, the entire gathered might of the galactic fleet glittered, a beautiful and paralyzed audience. Captain Jin gave her a slow, deliberate nod. The channel was open, broadcast on every frequency, to every ship, to the council chamber, to the core worlds and the rim colonies. The galaxy was holding its breath. She took a deep breath, the air of the human ship tasting of metal and purpose. She did not speak to the council. She spoke to the fear. This is Liaison Mira. I am speaking from aboard the Terran vessel, the Jiangwo. Her voice, amplified, carried across the void. I am unharmed. I am not a prisoner. I have been given tea. The sheer mundane absurdity of the last statement seemed to vibrate through the silence. They call this a Voyager ship, she continued, turning to look at the functional bridge, at Jin, at Yunji. It is not a warship. Its primary weapon is a tool for breaking apart asteroids. The drones you see are for repair and construction. The shields that bent your weapons are designed to deflect space debris. She paused, letting the words settle. We attacked a mining vessel. We attacked a ship of explorers because they did not obey our rules. And when they defended themselves, we called them monsters. In the council chamber, Quan winced, the truth landing like a physical blow. We placed a quarantine around their world, Mira said, her voice growing stronger with conviction. We silenced them, hoping they would fade away. We were afraid of what they might become. Our fear built this. She gestured to the bridge around her. It taught them to be unbreakable. It taught them that the universe is a harsh place that requires strength to survive. And now they are here, not for conquest, but to tell us the silence is over. She turned to face Jin directly. "Captain, my people are afraid. They see only power. Can you show them something else?" Jin considered for a moment, then walked to the central console. He entered a series of commands. On the main viewer, the image of the frozen fleet was replaced by a star chart. It was not of the galactic core, but of the spiral arm on the far side of the galaxy, an unexplored frontier. "This is our intended course," Jin said, his voice joining Myra's on the broadcast. "We came to your seat of power only because your signals were strongest. Our mission was never to confront you. It is to see what lies beyond." He zoomed the chart out, showing a path that skirted the galactic edge and pointed into the profound blackness between galaxies. "We are not settlers. We are not governors. We are witnesses. We build ships like this to go to places where no one else can, and to return home to tell the story." He turned to look into the feed, his expression earnest. "You tried to make us small with your silence. You failed. We offer you a choice now. You can see us as a threat to be fought, and we will leave. We will go where you cannot follow, and you will always wonder when we might return. Or you can see us as we are, a new voice, one that is loud and strong and will not be silenced again. You can learn from our strength, and we can learn from your peace." On the screens of 1,000 warships, crews listened. The paralyzing fear began to thaw, replaced by a dawning, staggering realization. This was not an invasion. It was an arrival. The most terrifying arrival in history, but an arrival nonetheless. In the council chamber, Quan stood up. The old authority was gone from his posture. In its place was a weary humility. He keyed his own transmitter, his voice linked to Myra's feed. "Captain Jin, this is Counselor Quan." He swallowed. "The Galactic Council acknowledges your arrival. The ancient quarantine on Sol 3 is hereby revoked. Your species has clearly earned its place among the stars." The words tasted like ash and relief. We would welcome further dialogue." It was not surrender. It was recognition. The first fragile crack in the paralysis dot on the bridge of the Jiang Wall, Jin gave a small, satisfied nod. "We accept. The dialogue begins now. We will transmit our historical and technological data so you may understand us. We request the same in return. No secrets. No silences." He then looked at Day. "Stand down all defensive systems. Retract the drone swarm. Cycle the vents to normal. Let them see us at rest." Across the immense hull of the Jiang Wall, the spectacle of power faded. The shimmering gravitic lens dissolved. The whirling cloud of drones streamed back into their ports. The fiery plasma main flickered and died. The ship was once again just a dark, angular shape, silent and immense, but no longer actively terrifying. The effect on the fleet was instantaneous. A collective, unseen release of tension seemed to sigh through space. Weapon systems powered down. Targeting locks disengaged. The standoff was over. Jin turned to Myra. "You should return to your people. You have a great deal to explain. Tell them the storm has passed." "This time." Myra nodded, emotion thick in her throat. "Thank you, Captain. For your restraint. For the tea." Yoonji offered a slight smile. "Safe travels, liaison." As Myra's shuttle departed the hangar bay, the galaxy watched it go. They watched it not with fear, but with a new, awe-inspired curiosity. The Jiang Wall did not move towards the Council planet. Instead, with a gentle flare of its blue chemical engines, it began to turn. It oriented itself toward the rim of the galaxy, toward the unknown frontier on the view screen. Its message was clear. Humanity was not here to stay. They were just passing through. But their passing had changed everything. The ship built to survive any storm had sailed into the calm heart of civilized space and found it lacking. It had not conquered. It had simply been, and in being, had proven that the galaxy's peace was fragile, and that true strength came not from suppressing others, but from the relentless will to endure. As the Jiang Wall accelerated, shrinking into the dark, the paralysis was gone. In its place was a vibrant, tumultuous, and suddenly very humble galaxy. They had met a power they could not comprehend, and it had asked only for a conversation. The fear would linger, but it was now mixed with something else. A profound, daunting respect. The silence from Earth was over, and its first words had rewritten the story of the stars. The Jiang Wall jumped into warp, not toward home, but deeper into the dark, leaving a woken galaxy behind to ponder a simple, terrifying truth. They were no longer alone, and they were no longer in charge.